Welcome back, everybody. I need a lady right now. I need a lady. If I pick you, you have to bring a purse, too. The bride right there. The bride. The bride. No, sir. Just the bride. And you're Jennifer. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you, too.
Now, are you guys really a bride and groom?
Not yet.
How long have you guys been together?
A year.
A year.
Yeah.
Wow. And he's ready to spend the rest of his life with you. Are you ready to spend the rest of your life with him?
Do you see the big wedding ring he made for me?
Aww. Well, I hope whatever happens, you guys are happy together.
We're very happy. Thank you.
Good. Now, I'm going to ask you for 3 things. Every time you have one of the things I ask you for, I'll give you $500. $1,500 goes a long way towards a nice ring. You sit tight. I need a guy. Viking head. Hey, Christian. How you doing, sir? Christian, this is Jennifer. Jennifer, Christian. Yeah, Christian, come on down here, sir. What I'm going to do is, remember I just said that I'm going to ask her for 3 things? I'm going to ask you, it's a little side bet. So I'm going to ask you if you think she has the objects that I ask her for. Every time you're right in your prediction, you get $500, okay? You're going to stand over here for me. Are you ready? Here we go. Number 1, do you think she...
This is breaking news.
We're continuing to follow this breaking news out of the Lincoln Tunnel, an accident involving 2 buses in the middle tube coming into New York. We have 18 people injured, and we are taking a look now at the medical personnel going in and a number of the injured coming out. Some walking out on their own, some being carried out, and others coming out by stretcher. Again, 18 people injured here as 2 buses collided in the Lincoln Tunnel. Here are the details that we have right now. This all happening at 9:45 this morning. It was an NJ Transit bus and a private bus that collided. It happened closer to the Manhattan side here, and a number of those injured have been taken to area hospitals as we're continuing to take a look at these 2 live pictures for you. A tow truck also at the scene there. Soon it will go in to bring that bus out, but right now we still don't know what caused all of this. We have Jim Smith in Chopper 2 over the scene for you to discuss traffic force and what we are seeing now. Another ambulance arriving on the scene, and again, we believe they are going in for another of those that has been injured in this accident. Let's go to Jim Smith right now. Jim.
Yeah, Mary, as you can see, emergency workers now taking that stretcher and appearing to make their way back into the tunnel. A few moments ago, we did see 1 person taken out by stretcher and placed into that ambulance. Also, several people were walked out, escorted by emergency workers, and they'd made their way over to this facility building just outside the Lincoln Tunnel. We could see several people that were standing just underneath that overhang. The last 2 people that we did see walk out were walking very slowly. They were holding on to emergency workers. And again, just to recap, we're waiting to find out extent of injuries. As far as the number, we were hearing approximately 18 people were injured in this incident. Of course, with situations like this, 2 buses being involved, those numbers can sometimes change. This is the center tube. Once again, the center tube heading into the city that is completely shut down, and the traffic at last look was about an hour delay on the New Jersey side. 2 of 4 lanes were open heading into the city. The George Washington Bridge and Holland Tunnel, obvious alternates to get around this. And again, as we watch some of the emergency workers making their way in and out of the tunnel, escorting some people out on foot a few moments ago, as well as people being taken out by stretcher. Mary?
Jim, as we take a look at these live pictures and also video from just moments ago of the work being done there by medical personnel, is it clear to you at all as to what these injuries are that they are dealing with at this time?
At this point, it is not clear, Mary. Again, we had not heard extent of injuries. Obviously, you would presume that the people that were walking out did not have significant injuries, but they were being escorted. They were not walking completely by themselves. They were holding on to the arms of some of the emergency workers that were walking out with them, and obviously you would imagine the people taken out by stretcher would have the more serious injuries.
And Jim, just continuing to recap again, all of this happening at 9:45 this morning, an NJ Transit bus and a private bus colliding, happening closer to the Manhattan side, and that's why we're seeing that emergency personnel there, right there outside the entrance there. 18 people injured, a number have been taken to the hospital, some have been able to walk out on their own, and as we take a look at this picture, we see the New Jersey side on the left-hand side of your screen and the traffic backups there, and the New York side as the medical personnel standing by waiting to care for anyone who needs that help. And Jim, can we talk about the traffic about at that time, 9:45, that's the tail end of rush hour. You would expect still traffic to be moving slowly as we take a look at another of the injured being brought out by stretcher to an ambulance.
Yeah, Mary, just to mention, several more ambulances have arrived at the scene and staging outside of the center tube. And as you were mentioning a moment ago, the delays at that time of the morning at 9:45 will vary, but you can still expect delays. There are some days we will see minor delays of maybe 10 minutes and delays possibly still upwards of a half hour or more at that time of the morning. But when you take 4 lanes and you turn that into 2 lanes, it very quickly becomes the hour delay that we're seeing now. And just to get back to the injuries once again, that is 2 more people in the last moment that we have seen taken out by stretcher. We have not seen any more people walk out on their own power in about the last 5 to 10 minutes. Again, the emergency workers still continue going, and we just saw others go in with a stretcher moments ago. So we would expect this to be a continuing changing situation as far as the injuries and who is able to walk out and who has to be taken out by stretcher.
And Jim, you've been witnessing this throughout the morning as you see person after person coming out, and we are keeping track of the numbers of how many people have gone into that ambulance, and just about 4 at this point, but many people trying to walk out on their own. It is slow too as they try to come out there, and being helped by a number of emergency personnel and workers to try to get there. It has been a chaotic scene at the Lincoln Tunnel as 2 buses collide within the middle tube. Jim, as we're taking a look at more of these live pictures, it looks like a number of those injured are being cared for right there inside that garage.
That's right. This is one of the Lincoln Tunnel facility or maintenance buildings. Many of the vehicles, including the tow trucks, will stage out of this building, and the people that we did see being escorted out walked under there. We did see some other people dressed in civilian clothes, not uniform, that we presume walked out on their own power as well. And that does appear to what they would typically call the walking wounded. Those people with less significant injuries would be cared for or evaluated. And of course, the people that required to be taken out by stretcher have already been placed into ambulance, as you mentioned, 4 at this point. And we have seen workers go back in with more stretchers. So we would expect this to be a changing situation as emergency workers get in there and assess the injuries of the people on those buses.
Yeah, we're looking at them now, bring out possibly some pieces of the bus or maybe something that was in there blocking their way, but the workers are continuing to go in and out, and we're waiting to see if any more of the injured are coming out, but the number stands at 18 injured. We don't have the extent of those injuries, but of course we're continuing to follow that for you. Now, we still don't know, Jim, right, what caused this?
That is right. At this point, we understand that there were the 2 buses involved. We do not know if there were other vehicles involved in the accident. And of course, that will be a situation that Port Authority police will look at once they can deal with all of the injured personnel as to what other vehicles were involved and what the exact cause of the accident may have been.
And Jim, can you give me an update again on the traffic and what is the situation in regard to timing? First, it was an hour plus. What are we looking at now?
Yeah, Mary, it's difficult for us to show you from this vantage point, but the delays do go back on 495. That is the approach on the New Jersey side. Those delays begin pretty much off the New Jersey Turnpike. Typically, with 2 of 4 lanes coming into the city. That would be an hour delay. And with the amount of bus traffic that we still see typically at this time of the morning, you could probably make that delay be over an hour. And with a situation like this, it's still ongoing. We still have 2 of 4 lanes blocked off. So those delays will only decrease as the volume heading to the tunnel itself decreases. So for anybody heading into New York from New Jersey, the George Washington Bridge and the Holland Tunnel, obvious alternates to get around this.
All right, Jim, thank you so much. And now let's go to Kate Begley. She's on a bus and in the tunnel. She was behind the accident. Kate, what did you see and hear, and how are you doing?
Well, I can tell you we've seen and heard nothing for easily over an hour. We've been at a dead standstill. But finally I was able to see through the CBS radio that there's been an accident. About 10 minutes ago, a police officer walked up to the bus, knocked on the door, and told the driver that he would be backing out of the tunnel. When cars started to move behind him, we were supposed to back out. And I now see I see police walking by. So I just saw 4 or 5 police officers walk by the bus.
And Kate, have you been able to assess right now exactly what is happening around that accident scene at all? Can you see in front of you?
I'm behind a bus, and if I look to the right, I can't see it. Mm-hmm. So I can see nothing at the accident site. It's just the experience.
Kate, it must be a frightening situation to know that, of course, so many people's worst nightmare, an accident in the tunnel. Kate, I know we're having a little trouble getting our audio connection with you, but thank you very much for taking some time to talk to us. And Kate has been on a bus behind the accident scene, waiting to be moved out of the tunnel. You can imagine there are a number of vehicles that are still stuck in there that have not been able to come or go. And this is happening almost an hour ago. So Kate Begley on that bus, still waiting, was told that they were going to back up, but hasn't heard anything from then. We're taking a live look at the pictures for you right now, and we are seeing emergency crews coming out of the tunnel. 18 people injured in this. We did see 4 people being brought out by stretcher into ambulances, rushed to area hospitals. There is a tow truck on the scene, and we're presuming they are going to try to bring those buses out, but the traffic alert still stands. We have massive delays at this area and a very chaotic scene in the past hour right there at the Lincoln Tunnel with a number of people injured. Again, that NJ Transit bus and a private bus colliding in the tunnel. This was in the center tube. That, of course, is the tube that is reversed, you know, for the morning commute, and then for the afternoon commute. We don't know if that had any impact on this accident. We don't have a cause right now of the accident. We also have on the ground CBS2's Tony Aiello. He has been on the scene to take a look at what he can find there. A number of the injured are being cared for near that site in a garage. Emergency personnel have been walking the injured to that garage and being cared for by emergency personnel. So let's go to Tony Aiello for the very latest as to what he's been seeing. Tony.
So there's a lot of activity here at the scene. It is not frantic activity. It's very controlled, which I would take as a good sign that while there's a serious situation, it's not some kind of huge emergency. Eddie, go ahead and walk past me so that we can show folks. We're on the plaza right outside the exit from the Lincoln Tunnel. This is basically between 40th and 38th Streets in Midtown Manhattan, with 10th Avenue on the west side of this plaza and 9th Avenue on the east side. Normally, there are 3 tubes of traffic coming from New Jersey, but you can see those middle tubes are all clogged up with the emergency responders. Only the southernmost tube is still carrying traffic from New Jersey into New York City. Port Authority is here. FDNY is here. Private ambulances are here. Of course, the NYPD is here as well. And lots of media. We're being kept well back by orders of some commander with the Port Authority. The lieutenant who told us to move back, we were much closer earlier, didn't really explain why he felt we needed to move back, but we're well back from the scene. scene. I have seen 2 people brought out on stretchers and placed into ambulances. It's being done in a very methodical, very careful way. There's not a franticness to it. There's not a rush to it. But you can see there's still lots of first responders on the scene. Many of those FDNY folks you see down there are with Rescue 1, which is pretty much the elite urban rescue unit in the country. They train for every scenario imaginable. In the grand scheme of things, a couple of buses colliding at the exit of the tunnel would not seem to be too heavy a lift for them to handle, but then again, there's virtually nothing they can't handle. You can see an ambulance from New York Presbyterian is about to leave the scene. We saw someone loaded into that ambulance, appeared to be a man on a stretcher board. It was loaded in about 6 or 8 minutes ago. They've stabilized him inside the unit, and perhaps now are getting ready to leave. You can see lots of white shirts as well. Those are the supervisors. Again, this is a controlled situation. There's not a franticness. There's not a hurriedness. It's people doing their job and being very methodical about it. The sun is shining brightly down here, and ideal conditions for some kind of rescue operation along these lines. Traffic, again, moving through the southernmost tube, but the center tubes are clogged up. And if you zoom into the center tube there, you can kind of sort of see what appears to be part of the bus and some kind of maybe a tow truck. There are other tow trucks on the scene here. It's very difficult to see because of the bright sunlight and then the shadow inside the tunnel. But that's what we can see from here. Again, lots of first responders from various agencies are here on the scene, doing their job in a very methodical way, removing the injured and assuming that they will be transporting some of the delayed passengers who were coming into New York City at some point as well. Now, this bus that just came out of that tube says Guelph Griffins on it. It's a Canadian company, I can tell from the URL on the side. It's not clear to me if that's one of the buses that was involved in the incident, but it was just pulled out of the tube. Guelph Griffins, a private bus. We were told that there was a private bus and a Port Authority bus that were involved here. I'm also hearing from sources in Port Authority law enforcement that the injuries are not believed to be major injuries. The speed limit going into or coming out of the tunnel is 35 miles an hour. So in theory, they would not have been moving very quickly. So that was a private bus that just came out, and now we see a Port Authority articulated bus with that bend in the middle coming out as well. I'm sorry, an NJ Transit bus coming out as well. It doesn't look like there's any damage on that NJ Transit bus that we can see to the front end, so perhaps there wasn't a collision but rather just a hard stop. It's hard to tell, and now we're seeing traffic coming out of that tunnel, so we have to assume that maybe some of these folks were delayed for quite a while. If we can go back to the studio, we're going to try to relocate and maybe talk to some of these drivers as they're coming out, so I'll send it back to you while we try to relocate.
All right, Tony, thank you very much. As we take a look at that traffic that was stopped in the tunnel, and we talked to that passenger on the bus, she was on that bus for about an hour waiting to come out of the tunnel, so now we are seeing some of that traffic finally being allowed to come back out. And let's go to Jim Smith. He is live in Chopper 2 with what he is seeing from the skies. Jim.
Yeah, Mary, we're watching as a tow truck now backs into the tunnel. It is possible that some of the buses we have seen come out may not have been directly involved in the accident, but may have been next to or behind the buses that were involved. That one private bus that Tony referred to has pulled over to an area just past the emergency vehicles. We did not see damage to the front end of the bus. It's difficult to tell if there was damage to the back end, and again, whether that bus was directly involved in the accident. There is some traffic coming out of the tunnel, but with that tow truck backing in, you would have to believe that at least one of the buses that was involved in the accident is most likely still in there. They might just be allowing traffic that was essentially stuck in the tunnel to get around the accident scene using that one lane. That may also indicate that possibly the serious injured may have already been taken out, and it's unknown whether everybody would have been removed from those buses or not, but that would be an indication with that tow truck still in there that a bus would at least still be on the scene but with some of the vehicles we see coming through the tunnel, they were just allowing those vehicles that were stuck in the tunnel to exit at this time. Mary?
Yeah, and Jim, as you said, it looks like those with the injuries have been removed from the bus. We did see a number of people come out, and we had that number at 18 injured. They are still on the scene there, though, aren't they?
That is right. We did see one ambulance depart, but there are still 3 ambulances on the scene, and we know for a fact that at least one of those ambulances did have a person on a stretcher placed inside of them. And as we were talking about earlier with this Lincoln Tunnel facilities building, many of the people that walked out escorted by emergency workers went into that building, that garage area, and they are still on the scene, probably being evaluated by EMS. So that would indicate that most likely the injured or the serious injured have been removed. I don't believe they would start bringing in the tow truck to deal with the bus until at least the serious injuries have been dealt with.
Yeah, Jim, I think you make a good point there. Certainly they wouldn't remove the bus until they were sure that everyone was safe. And we continue to wait for that tow truck to come out. We have 2 buses that could possibly be in the tunnel. Maybe one may have been able to come out on its own, a New Jersey Transit bus and a private bus. That collision happening about 9:45 this morning. Jim, can you give us an update in regard to the traffic in and around that area at this point?
Yeah, Mary, of course, all of the delays are on the New Jersey side of the Lincoln Tunnel. I'll try to quickly bring you over and just give you a glimpse at those delays as we go across the Hudson River. That is the 495 approach, and the delays still are just about back, bumper-to-bumper traffic, back to the New Jersey Turnpike. There are only 2 of 4 lanes available heading into the city, so that would be about an hour delay. And of course, as we've been mentioning, as for commuters heading into the city, the George Washington Bridge, Holland Tunnel, they will be excellent as alternates, even though they may have delays. With the delay being upwards of an hour at the Lincoln Tunnel, commuters should start heading over to those alternates.
But a difficult situation, certainly, at 9:45 this morning inside the Lincoln Tunnel in the middle tube. And Jim, as you continue to bring us that picture of that close-up of the tube, we saw a number of people walking out on their own, a number of people being helped, and 2 more buses now coming out. Let's take a live look for you from the ground, too, and we can see emergency personnel, but also smoke at this time. Jim, can you see that as well?
Yes, we do see that smoke coming out of the exhaust of that one bus. The bus in the front does appear to be a New Jersey Transit bus. The paint scheme appears to be consistent with New Jersey Transit, and just behind it, that is some sort of private bus. We do not know for sure those were the buses involved in the accident, but they are driving out very slowly, and you see that New Jersey, we believe the New Jersey Transit bus putting out a very heavy exhaust at this point. So we'll just have to monitor this situation for a moment to see where those buses stop, if they pull over to the side or continue on their way, as to whether we believe they were the buses directly involved in the accident.
You know, the tow truck did go in, but it looks like these buses have been able to come out on their own. But it certainly looks that way, Jim, as you were mentioning, that these are the 2 buses that were involved. We're going to check back with you in a moment, but CBS2's Tony Aiello is on the ground. Tony, I wanted to get your assessment as to what's happening there at this point.
Yeah, Mary, we've moved over to kind of the center area, and you can get a better shot now of this tube as it has reopened. You see a small bus that says Patterson, New York on it. These are all people who appear to have been caught in the traffic of this incident. If you pan to the left, behind the ambulance there is a private bus from Canada that says Guelph bus on it, and then this New Jersey Transit articulated bus that says Route 126, bus 126 on it, New York from Clinton. These were the first 2 buses that came out of the tube, and it's not clear to me that they were the ones that were involved, but they certainly are the ones here that were the first out as things cleared up. The passengers inside, many of them holding their cell phones out the window, recording the scene as they drive by. Here's another private bus that's coming as well. As soon as that tube opened, I ran over to the island here to speak to a woman who was in a white car. She had New Jersey plates, and she She looked remarkably calm, but clearly was flustered by what she experienced stuck in that tunnel. So you were stuck in that tunnel for how long?
For 2 hours.
What was that like?
Panicking because you don't know if something will explode that you can't move.
We're taking a live look at the pictures for you from Chopper 2. And Tony, go ahead.
Take care of business. I was going to say, she one of many people who were delayed this morning coming into New York City. It's matinee day, so who knows how many folks were coming over to catch a show in Broadway as well. That woman said that, you know, as she was in her car wondering what the heck was going on, she did hear from someone that there was a different reason that this was delayed. She heard that someone on a bus had a baby. And I said, do you know that for a fact, or is that just what you heard? And she said, well, that's just what I heard. And that certainly is not what we are hearing from the authorities involved here. But again, the tunnel now appears to be open. You can see flashing lights on the northernmost lane, and then the lane just to the south of that, traffic's coming out. The southernmost tube was open all morning and absolutely clogged, and that's causing those huge delays in New Jersey approaching the tunnel. And again, there are two buses that have pulled over here. One is a Guelph bus from Canada, and then there was a a New Jersey Transit bus 126 New York via Clinton that seemed to be directly behind it. It was loaded with folks, and it has left the scene. So that's what we have here on the plaza. Again, lots of activity, but it's a controlled activity. There's not a franticness about it, and we're not seeing any more people being loaded into ambulances. So whatever rescues may have been going on appear to have wrapped up at this point.
And Tony, I just had another question for you. Of course, this happening in the middle of the tube, and as a commuter, of course, one of your biggest fears is that there might be something happening in the middle of the tube as you were driving through. I wonder if you got that sense too when you talked to a number of people who had been through that. As we continue to take a look at these live pictures from Chopper 2 and, of course, on the ground.
The woman that I interviewed, clearly was a little bit rattled. You know, I think the combination of being stuck in the tunnel in your vehicle, not knowing what's going on, and then sitting there for 2 hours, all kinds of things will play through your head. A good morning to stay zen behind the wheel, I guess, Mayor.
Tony Aiello, thank you very much, bringing us live reports from the ground there at the Lincoln Tunnel, where two buses collided earlier this morning, and 18 people were injured. A number of them were taken into an ambulance. A couple of those ambulances are still on the scene there. One was rushed to the hospital. There are a number of people, and I don't know if you can see that from our view here from Chopper 2. Inside that garage, a number of the injured were taken. They are still there. There's a number of emergency personnel on the scene as well, and Jim Smith is live in Chopper 2 over the scene. And Jim, we've been waiting for word in regard to the injuries. I'm wondering, what have you seen? Have you seen any additional ambulances arrive?
Mary, we have not. As a matter of fact, just a few moments ago, there were 4 ambulances on the scene. There are now 2, or at least 2 in the immediate area around the tunnel that we can see. And one of those ambulances did have a person placed in it earlier. That still has not left the scene. But just to go back to your question, we have not seen additional ambulances respond to the area immediately around the tunnel. As for what we're seeing right now, we are seeing vehicles come out of the tunnel, but if you'll notice, there is just one lane of traffic coming through. Earlier, we saw a tow truck back into what is our right lane for traffic coming out of the tunnel. That would be the left lane. That tow truck still has not come back out, so we would have to presume at this point that they are still tending to at least one of the buses inside the tunnel, or at least another vehicle possibly, since that tow truck has not come back out to the New York side of the tunnel. And it's also possible the traffic that we're seeing right now is simply the traffic that was stuck behind the accident. All lanes were closed as the emergency personnel went in from the New York side. All traffic was stopped, so nobody was allowed to move through the tunnel, at least through the center tube, in the immediate time after the accident. There are still plenty of emergency crews on the scene, but with that traffic now coming out, we have not seen fire department or EMS personnel go into the tunnel as we saw earlier. Now, what we are seeing is a fire department bus arrive on the scene. Typically, they will bring this in to situations where they have multiple injuries, and we'll just take a moment to see if that bus goes into the tunnel or if it goes over to that garage area, possibly to evaluate and attend to all those people that we saw walk out earlier. Mary?
But again, Jim, as you said, this is the bus they do bring on at accident scenes like this one that would require minor emergency personnel activity to assist those who are injured. So again, as you said, we are waiting to make sure that bus does not go into the tunnel, which would definitely be a very different situation. So we'll continue to look at that and watch those pictures. And I just wanted to talk to Kate Begley. She's back on the phone with us. We talked to Kate earlier. She was stuck in the tunnel behind that accident. Kate, how are you doing now?
Doing just fine. The bus slowly inched back out, and just about a minute ago it reached the other side of the tunnel, the New Jersey side, and we were diverted to the south too. So we're now moving forward again, which is great.
It was a long wait for you, though, inside that tunnel.
Yeah, it was easily over an hour, and the worst part was just not knowing. The driver didn't know, but we just sat, and then eventually we found out. But
we were talking earlier that it is a fear, really, for so many people of being stuck in that tunnel and not knowing what's happening.
You know, it's funny because you don't, well, until you're in it. I would imagine if you're really claustrophobic, it might drive you a little crazy, but it does get to be a little unsettling.
We're glad everything's okay with you, Kate. I wonder if you had seen anything in regard to the accident while you were moving out of that tunnel or in the tunnel itself.
We just saw emergency personnel walking forward in the tunnel. I could not see anything of the accident. So.
Well, we hear right now 18 people are injured. Many were able to walk out on their own. A couple of them were taken by stretcher out of that tunnel, and we are waiting to hear the extent of those injuries. But Kate, again, you're well on your way to where you were going, though.
Yes, I'm looking forward to getting to work, so thank you very much.
All right, Kate, well, we're glad everything's okay with you. Kate Begley was stuck in that tunnel behind the accident and moving now as we're seeing traffic moving as well. Jim Smith is in Chopper 2. And Jim, I wanted to check back with you. No activity right now with the emergency personnel and that fire department vehicle.
That's right. No new personnel have gone into the tunnel. This fire department vehicle did arrive just a moment ago. It stopped. We've seen a few of the firefighters, EMS personnel get out, but at this point it's unclear as to whether they will be going into the tunnel to deal with or assess any further injuries in the tunnel itself, or if they're here in support of those people that are inside of the Lincoln Tunnel garage. The garage where often the tow trucks and other vehicles for the tunnel are kept. That is where we saw earlier many people that walked out of the tunnel, many of them escorted by emergency personnel, walked into that garage area, the walking wounded, as they would say, and that's in addition to the at least 4 people that were taken out by stretcher so far. What we're seeing now is traffic come through the tunnel in one lane. It's unclear whether they have actually reopened one lane of traffic or if this is simply the traffic that was stuck in the tunnel itself. And we can tell you that earlier there was a tow truck that backed into that one lane that's not being used. That tow truck has not come back out to the New York side of the tunnel, so it would seem that that tow truck went in to hook up at least one of the buses that was involved in the accident. We did see some other buses come out earlier that have pulled over to the side. A private bus that is here just a few hundred feet from the exit of the tunnel, as well as another bus, a New Jersey Transit bus that seemed to drive out very slowly. It's not clear whether that bus was involved in the accident as well. Mary?
All right, Jim, thank you very much. Let's get back to the ground, and we have CBS 2's Tony Aiello. He has been on the scene watching this unfold. And Tony, what do you have in regard to an update here as to what you are seeing and hearing from the scene there right outside the Lincoln Tunnel?
Yeah, Mary, on the left-hand side of our shot, you can see buses that are now coming through. They were some of the traffic that was stuck inside that tunnel for such a long period of time this morning. Some passengers are kind of mock wiping their brow in a gesture of relief as they drive by. Many of them have their smartphones out, and they're taking video of the emergency responders and the assembled media. To the right, behind that ambulance, is that bus from Canada. It said Guelph on it. That we have every indication that bus was involved in this incident. Just a few minutes ago, we were able to walk down to the back end of that bus. Someone from on the bus, I don't believe it was the bus driver, but someone from on the bus was behind it taking pictures of some damage to the right-hand rear of that bus. As soon as a Port Authority police officer saw us down there, he asked us to move a little bit further back. But from what I could see, and I didn't get a great look at the back of the bus, but from what I could see, it did not look like significant damage to the back of the bus. So, you know, I only had a very quick view. There could have been more damage further along on the back of the bus, but from what I saw, it looked like maybe a cracked quarter panel. It just didn't look that serious to me. But again, someone had come off the bus and was documenting the damage with a smartphone. Now, on the right-hand side of the bus, Eddie, the chopper mentioned earlier when that FDNY bus pulled up, it says MRTU on the back of the bus. That stands for Mobile Respiratory Treatment Unit, and they would bring that to the scene to treat people who are having issues with asthma, people who are having issues perhaps being overcome by some fumes. We've seen the bus pull up here. We haven't seen any passengers or bus drivers or drivers getting on the bus for treatment. Perhaps as a precaution, the FDNY figured it was best to have that at the scene and maybe not need it rather than to need it and not have it. But again, that's a highly sophisticated piece of rescue equipment from the FDNY, the MRTU, the Mobile Respiratory Treatment Unit. You have to imagine that they have everything on board there that you would find in a hospital emergency room to treat people who are having respiratory issues. You know, I know that I personally would not do well, Mary, being stuck in a tunnel for an hour or 90 minutes or 2 hours. You know, you run the risk of people who are claustrophobic and having panic attacks and all kinds of different things. So the FDNY has a huge variety of first response equipment here at the scene, including that MRTU for treating anyone who may be having some respiratory issues here at the scene. Mary?
All right, Tony, thank you very much. And as you've been reporting, we've been watching a number of those people who were in the garage now boarding a bus, possibly passengers on those two buses that collided in the tunnel. It is a story we will continue to follow for you throughout, and we will have a live update and team coverage on CBS2 News at noon.
This has been Breaking News.
Christine Cruz, come on down. You're the next contestant on The Price is Right.
Hey, Christine, welcome to the show. What's going on? How about a prize, George?
Amber is locked away with a home theater system. Stream content with the built-in Wi-Fi and Smart Hub feature on this 5.1 channel home theater system. Includes 5 speakers, a subwoofer, receiver, and wireless unit.
Thanks, Amber. Christine, what do you think?
1440.
1440. Jonathan.
1250, Drew.
1250. 1250. Candace.
$1,500.
$1,500. Alan.
$1, Drew.
$1. Actual retail price, $700. Happy birthday, bud.
Thank you.
Happy birthday. Nice to have you here. George, people that have birthdays are usually pretty lucky. I hope we have a nice prize for them.
Well, Alan, you just won a home theater. Looks like you need a whole new living room. A great choice for any space. This 7-piece living room set includes a sofa, 2 plush chairs, an ottoman, a contemporary cocktail table, and 2 round tables from Flex Steel. Plus,